Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is my first NACIS, and I'm so excited to be here. I am Jessie Braden. I'm from Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, and I run the Spatial Analysis and Visualization Initiative, which is a mapping, GIS and data analysis lab. We do lots of different things. We do a lot of analytical consulting for nonprofits and community-based clients, so we're actually an external-facing center, an independent center at Pratt directly under the Office of the Provost, which allows us to be very multidisciplinary, and that factors into our certificate program as well. We do our own research, we partner with other academic institutions, we support all of the mapping and data analysis work that happens at Pratt, and then we also have a certificate program, which is what I'm here to talk about today. So our certificate program is a 12-credit, currently non-degree program that we launched in 2014. And we did that for a couple of reasons. So it's through the School of Continuing and Professional Studies. And that's because it was very quick to launch a program that way. And the program was built in response to just what I felt was lacking in some current programs at the time and just things that were happening in the industry. And it also allowed us to be very multidisciplinary, again, being in sort of a non-topical space. And it's sort of a proof of concept for a non-topically based program before we put it into a degree program. I'll explain a little bit more what I mean by that. So these are the things that we focus on in our program. I won't go through them just for time, but we do, obviously it's a GIS and design program, so we focus a lot on design. So a little bit of background about the program. There are 3 core courses. We start off with a spatial thinking design or spatial thinking data and design before going into like the typical intro and advanced courses. We do offer our intro course both in ARC and in Q, just to give flexibility to those who want to go down more of an open source path. And then for electives, of course, we have the typical sort of like demographics and physical environmental mapping courses, but where I think our program gets interesting, in addition to the design side, is that we dabble in these sort of 5 classes below, first of which is mining the web, which has a slightly data science bent to it. And then we actually have 2 full courses on interactive web mapping. So not just embedding Carto or ArcGIS Online maps into existing sites, but really having students build full sites that focus on storytelling and using design and mapping in them. So we also have a Python course, which focuses on data cleaning and data organization with Python, but then also using ArcPy. And then one of my favorite classes is the R and spatial stats class, so hitting on all of those topics and really getting students heavily into R as much as we can. We also have a practicum, independent study, some special topics courses, some other design things that we do, but that's the crux. So a little bit of background about the program, students and instructors. So again, since we are a not-for-credit program, we have a different type of students than you might encounter in the degree side. We have all kinds of, we get the typical like planning and architecture students, but we also get artists and journalists and really random types of people that are interested in getting into mapping. A lot of students are looking to step up in their current job and take on additional roles. Some students are looking to get into grad school and kind of beefing up their application. A lot of students are like me. They finished their schooling well before all of this new technology happened and are feeling a little bit behind and want to catch up. And then some people just want a real career transition. So almost all of our students work full-time. And our instructors are all practitioners. Since we are not for credit, we don't have any full-time faculty members, obviously. But this actually, I think, works really great. The students get exposed to what these people are doing on the job. And my favorite peers in New York teach for us, doing really interesting things in their day job that they bring to their students. Tool-wise, just wanted to sort of shout out our common things that we use. So of course, Arc and Q, Carto, Geoda, Adobe products, Python, ArcPy, HTML5, JavaScript, D3, CSS, R, like all the current things we can think of, so that students can both get the traditional GIS desktop skills, but then also like what is happening in the industry now. So how do we focus on design? So the first thing that we do is we have the students start off with a class about spatial thinking, data, and design. So we don't let them start mapping right away, which is good and bad, but I think mostly it's good. So they, of course, learn the spatial concepts. They think about critically assessing data, which I have to say every time I speak. I don't ever want to see anyone using data blindly without actually looking at the data. And then, of course, the design. So they're learning about spatial theory, visual hierarchies, cartography, design, layout, all of that before they ever make a map. And we do this because it's a 12-credit program, it's very short, and as you all know, I'm sure, it takes a long time to develop cartographic skills, these kind of softer skills, and design, and we want to give the students as much time to hone that as they can. So this allows them to immediately start applying these skills when they get into their mapping courses and then improving as they go through the program. We do let them get into Carto in the foundations course because they get really antsy if you don't let them do any mapping, which I understand. So they do get to play around and start thinking about design and even interactivity in that first course. So other ways we focus on design, all of our courses have Tumblrs, so students are always posting maps and discussing, talking about design and cartography. We're working on creating an online community for our students because they're kind of in and out and having those broader discussions. We encourage our instructors to do design critiques every time they do a homework review, so really thinking intentionally not just about the analytical feedback, but how are they presenting the information, how are they telling a story. This is a little bit harder to implement because you're really asking the instructors to take on an extra bit that's hard to fit in, but I think it's critically important if we want the students to be able to be good designers in addition to good analysts. We also look to other disciplines. So, for example, I think architects are actually usually really great visual designers. So even though their maps might be incorrect or misleading, the design is very solid. And so we show a lot of those to students just for inspiration on how you can look at a map in a different way and present it in a different way. And then two of the most important things I think we do, we have a portfolio workshop for the students. It's a 12-hour, 2-day workshop taught by Kate Chanba, who presented on Tuesday at the Practical Cartography Day. She teaches them how to, how to define their work and their messaging and sort of bringing their work together as a whole cohesive piece. So it's about storytelling about their work. And then how to brand and market themselves. I think it's critically important now that students have an online, individually designed web portfolio to display their work to show employers as they go into the workforce. And then everything that we do is heavily designed, so trying to lead by example. Our website, our course guides, even our workshop flyers, we think very intentionally about how we are talking to students, what we're showing them. Even our lab hour sign is like specifically laid out, and so we're just trying to like reinforce that in every way that we can, so students are always exposed and inspired. And then finally, we focus a little bit more on the soft sort of approaches to exposing students to design. One thing that we found is really inspiring for students and to make them stop and think about design is by exposing them to art. And of course, now there's a lot of data art and map art. So we've begun having workshops, interdisciplinary workshops across the several schools at Pratt. So bringing together artists, industrial designers, mappers, planners to talk about how they can use data and how you can present data and tell stories in a way that maybe you hadn't thought of when you're just making a traditional map. We're also developing an integrative course with the undergrad BFA program. So the certificate students will not be enrolled in this course, but we're hoping to have some crossover and interaction between the undergrad art students and our certificate program students so that, again, they can inspire each other by learning these different approaches. And then also we do dabble in exhibits, and we're getting more into this. We were so fortunate to work with the author Catherine Harmon to create an exhibit that's on right now until November 15th if you happen to be in New York, but really showcasing artists that use data in a really novel and creative way to tell stories. And then we also commissioned 3 artists to use a specific immigration data set around the PLUMS data and created art pieces to tell stories that way. So we think it's really inspiring for students to see that. Now, obviously, there are a lot of challenges, so many challenges with a not-for-credit program, but the one I really want to talk about is this balancing analytics and design. This is something that we really, really struggle with because we want to place equal importance on these things, but given that it's a 12-credit program and our classes run as slight intensive, so what I mean by that is we break a full semester course into 5-week intensives or 7.5-week intensives, so students don't have to take more than one class at a time if they don't want to. But that's a lot to smush in and not a lot of time for reflection and development. So it's really hard. We want them to be able to do solid analysis and think methodically and have projects that have real impact, but also just hammering, again, that design side of things. And it is so little time. So the course is, it's 12 credits. All of our students work full-time, and so they don't always have the opportunity to develop their materials as much as they would like, and it's hard for us to push them. So we're trying to think of ways that we can motivate them. But at the same time, our next step is we're developing a graduate level degree program in the School of Information at Pratt. So we think the non-topical approach really works, and focusing a lot on data analytics. So it's going to be a certificate program and concentration within the data analytics and visualization program masters in Pratt School of Information. We're really excited to see how that goes, and looking forward to incorporating more design into the students' work. Thanks.